So welcome to this Did You Know session. Today we're going to look at some updates to the performance reports that will be coming soon. So let's start with an update to the timeline report. So here's our test results. I'm going to go to the timeline report. And if I filter this, so let's remove some of these lines from this graph. And we're going to focus on the errors. So we can see here at the start of the test we had no errors, and about 50 seconds in we had a spike of errors, and then it kind of petted off afterwards. So if I were to want to investigate this, I can now drill through this. So I can click on this point here. It will take me to the error tab. And as you can see here, we can now see we're getting these 400 errors. We have a count of how many errors were actually received during the test. And also we now have the response body. And this is a new feature that we've added. This allows you to actually see the responses that came back from the test during the execution. So we can see here, we actually got the error here, basically saying we had an issue with the payload that we're sending to the application server. So a very quick and easy way to understand what caused an error and to look at that response. Now what we might want to do is look at a previous test to understand, now was this error occurring previously? If I click on the request stats, we now have this compare button, and we can compare request stats from previous tests. So the default, as you can see here, is I want to compare to the previous test run. You can then choose the comparison mode. So let's leave it on the delta as a percentage. We click compare. And then what you'll see on the report is we'll see the existing value and the delta of that value. Now we can perhaps filter this. So if we do the error percentage over here, we can then see based on the previous run, has it improved? Is it any different to that previous run? It's very quick and easy to look at previous tests. But also we can, instead of just doing the previous test, I could compare to any test or the baseline. So if I go to any other test, we can then look for this test in our infrastructure. So I'm going to go to that project. We're going to go to the soak test, and then we see all of the results. So these are all of the results going back as long as this test is run. I can then say I want to go back to perhaps the end of May and then compare the results. And straight away we can see we're now comparing that previous test from a while ago against the test that's just executed, allowing us to compare previous test runs against existing test runs. And like I said, we can also compare against a baseline. So you can basically take the baseline that you've defined and then compare it against this test. Now the final thing I want to show you this week is if we go to the multi-test, something else we've added. So here's a multi-test. We can now do baselining with multi-tests. So if I click on the trend chart, we can see this is our trend for this multi-test. And at the moment, there's no baseline line on this test. But it may be that I want to add a baseline. And I'm thinking that this point here is the baseline. So this test was run on March 5th. So if I go to the history, I can now say that I want to make this my baseline. I say set as baseline. If I go back to the trend chart, so you can see now that baseline is applied to our trend charts, and we can now see how that's affected for the different metrics we're measuring. And we can scroll down to look at all the different metrics and compare them to that baseline. So as you can see, lots of new great features to our BlazeMeter performance reports. If you're new to BlazeMeter, please go to blazemeter.com, where we have access to blogs and videos and our BlazeMeter University, and you can sign up for a free trial. Thank you.